Hey guys, so we talked our last video about Hitler coming to power, exploiting the uh, anger, resentment, bitterness over the Treaty of Versailles, exploiting the poor economic situation that Germany was in, also caused by the Treaty of Versailles and the Depression. And um, he basically uses the power of his speaking voice. He tells the Germans everything they want to hear. You know, that look, we're kind of down on our luck now, but Germany's the best country in the world, and we should be great. And it's not our fault we lost World War One. We were stabbed in the back by Jews and other undesirables. That I can make you to greatness, lead us to greatness again. I can make you great. Germany can make Germany great again, and we're going to be awesome, and assume our rightful position in the world as a preeminent country. So the German people are loving him, and basically what he does, he goes about just totally violating the Treaty of Versailles. Germany's not supposed to have a military. Well, guess what? He builds a military, um, which also rebuilds Germany's economy because people are getting jobs either as a soldier in the military or in weapons production, and in the factories, and also in civil service building, all the infrastructure that Germany is going to need for the war. So he basically delivers on his promise. He promises to rebuild Germany, and he does, doing everything he's not supposed to do. He basically calls the bluff of Britain and France. He's like, look, they're not going to do anything about it because they're too freaked out about entering into another war. So I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And he's right. They don't. So he rebuilds Germany. They're strong again. He then gobbles up Austria, his native country of Austria. He basically says, hey, you guys want to be part of Germany? And they're like, sure, sweet. And then he also gobbles up Czechoslovakia, which is a country right next door. So he gets new soldiers, new population, and he's feeling very, very strong. Meanwhile, Britain and France are just kind of hoping that he goes away, and they're freaked out. America is on the other side of the Atlantic. We're dealing with the Great Depression. We're kind of like, you guys are on your own. So Hitler's feeling pretty good. There's just one last little detail he has to take care of before he launches his war on Europe. So for World War One, the real reason why the Germans lost World War One is because they're fighting a two-front war. They had to fight Britain and France on one side, and then Russia on the other. And while Russia wasn't like great during World War One, just the fact that they're there, like Germany had to devote people and resources and stuff to fighting, which weakened them everywhere, which eventually allowed for the Allied victory. So Hitler wants to make sure that doesn't happen again. So the Germany and Soviet Union basically entered into secret negotiations to not have them go to war, and they eventually do come public with this non-aggression pact. So they do agree for this thing to not fight. They're not like friends necessarily. They're not allies, but this is an agreement that the two countries are not going to go to war with each other, which everyone was really shocked about because Hitler and Stalin personally did not like each other. I mean, they're both really the same person, just this crazy madmen, horrible people bent on world domination. So, like, why do they get along? Like, they hate each other, but they both had a mutual interest in this, and they both totally planned on and stabbing the other in the back when the time was right. In Hitler's mind, this is great because this frees him up to focus totally on the Western Front. He's going to go in, he's going to beat France, he's going to beat Great Britain, and then once he has that front secured, now he'll turn back around and just attack Russia later. For Stalin, for Stalin, he's like, look, this is going to be World War One all over again. Britain and France and Germany are just going to like beat the snot out of each other in the trenches for like 4 years. They're going to lose millions and millions of people, and then once everyone is weak, I'll just roll in from behind and just take out everyone. Okay, so both leaders are like, sweet, this is going to be great for me. And there's lots of political cartoons at the time kind of making fun on this deal that everyone knew was eventually going to go south. So here's Hitler and Stalin walking all buddy-buddy together with their guns behind their back, ready to shoot each other at a moment's notice. But the deed is done. Hitler is ready, and he is going to begin his war on September 1st, 1939, in World War II is going to begin in earnest. Even though, we'll talk about this later, the Japanese had already been fighting for almost a decade in China. This is where people used to say World War One started because we're kind of European focused. But Hitler attacks Poland, and actually Poland's attacked from both sides. One of the conditions of the Treaty of Versailles, because Poland was created from both Russia and Germany, that both countries are going to basically just reclaim their own land. So poor Poland gets sandwiched between the Soviet Union and Germany, and falls relatively quickly. They, tip your hat to Poland. They put up a decent fight. They were just like massively overwhelmed and outnumbered. So now, with Poland out of the way, why does Hitler invade Poland first? One, because Poland has the highest concentration of Jews in Europe, and he wants to get rid of them. And two, this is the only real threat, I guess you could say, on the Eastern Front. He doesn't have to worry about Russia now, so now that's totally taken care of. And, to reclaim the lost territory from the Treaty of Versailles. So now he can focus everything on France. And Hitler unleashes what's called a blitzkrieg. So blitzkrieg is this style of warfare that's really, really fast. So World War One, again, was characterized by the slow, plodding trench stalemates where you couldn't really go anywhere. Battles were fought to gain like just 100 yards of land and thousands of people dying. And people kind of thought World War II was going to be World War I all over again. Hitler and his military, people no, technology has changed. Tanks can go faster. Everything can go much faster. Planes are much more accurate and so on. So we're going to go fast. We're going to fight really, really, really fast and not have this slow. And it's very, very, very effective. Okay? So he conquers Poland. He conquers the Netherlands and Belgium and stuff, which isn't really super impressive. The real fight is between Germany and France. That's France was considered to have the best army in Europe at this time. Like, this is going to be the real war, and it's going to be World War I all over again. And France has been preparing for this. So France, terrified after World War I of Germany because they almost lost, has spent the last several decades building this thing called the Maginot Line. And the Maginot Line is this series of forts, pillboxes, minefields, just all these defensive fortifications. It's not a wall. It's not like the Great Wall of France or something. But it's all this series of all these different defensive fortifications, like this one here is a relic of the Maginot Line. Hundreds and hundreds of them just polka dotting the border between France and Germany, and then miles and miles deep. So, it wasn't like just this one wall. Once you get past it, you're done. It'd be like a fort here, and then a fort there, and then a fort there, and then a fort there. So if you're Germany, you had to go through like several layers of these defensive before you could get anywhere. And you can see they're concrete, steel reinforced. You got little openings for people to shoot out of when they're in here. They have little turrets up top. Back when this was actually in use, there had been like probably minefields and barbed wire in front of this. They had little turrets that could go underground, so they were hard to hit and then pop up and shoot at tanks and stuff. It was really, really formidable defense. And the French thought that this would make them impervious to attack from Germany. There's just one big problem. The Maginot Line extended the entire border except right here. There was a big gap in it. Okay? There was a gap because there's a big forest here called the Ardennes Forest that the French thought, there's no way the Germans are going to go through this forest, so there's no need to build our defenses here. Well, you can guess exactly what happened. The Germans are looking at this like death, 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 death. Oh, giant hole. Well, we're just going to go through the giant hole. So the Maginot Line becomes this kind of a symbol of the foolishness of trying to fight the war of the past. And the French thought this would be World War I Part 2, and Hitler's like, no, this is going to be World War II. Like, we're doing it differently. And we're going to go fast, and we're going to put our tanks through these holes, and there's nothing that you can do about it. So the French are kind of sitting in their defenses like, we're going to stop the Germans, and they're like, oh, wait, the Germans are already in Paris? Oops. So France... it falls very, very fast. They're They're invaded. They fall in a little over a month before they surrender. Okay, so poor Poland that was attacked on both sides by the Germans and by the Russians without really any warning lasts almost as long as France does, that fully knew the Germans were coming and had all these defenses set up, and they almost amounted to nothing. So now what that means for Britain is, crap, you're by yourself. All of your other allies are defeated. America's not in the war, and poor Britain is all by themselves. So Hitler, now his last task is to invade Great Britain and conquer it. But before he can do that, because Britain's an island, he's got to cross the English Channel. And before he can do that, he has to destroy the British Air Force. Because if not, while his ships are going across, the British Air Force is going to be shooting them and blowing them up and stuff, and it's not going to be effective. So, Germany launches what's called the Battle of Britain, which is the first completely aerial battle in human history. They're going in and trying to take out the British Air Force. And the strategy is to bomb the British airports, to try to take them out and slowly weaken them down. And the British put up one heck of a fight. The British pilots are super motivated, like they're fighting, defending their family, like they're going nonstop, putting everything they're in. But the German Air Force is much larger, and the British Air Force is slowly getting worn down. The tactic of attacking airfields is working. Well, here's what happens. A German bomber group is sent out to attack an airport at night, and they think they're in the right spot, and they drop bombs. Well, it turns out they weren't over an airbase, they were over the city of London. And they bomb London. And that really ticks off the British Prime Minister, Winston Churchill. So he then orders his bombers to go attack the city of Berlin, okay, which is the capital of Germany. They attack Berlin. It's not a huge attack, like overall it's not really effective, but this super ticks off Hitler. So Hitler then, as retribution, shifts the focus from attacking the airfields, which was working, to now attacking the city of London itself. And this is what's called the Blitz. And for basically 2 months straight, London is bombed every single night. So the citizens of London basically go to bed in the subway system underground, not knowing when they emerge the next day what it's going to look like and stuff. Okay, so tremendous devastation is wrought, but the British do not give up. Winston Churchill goes on the radio and says, "We're not going to surrender." The British royal family is actually offered asylum by FDR in America. He said, you can come over here and be safe, but they refuse to leave, which kind of inspires the British people. And while the Germans are bombing London, which, sucks for the civilian population, it allows the British Air Force to kind of recover and get their heels. And, every night these Germans are bombing, German planes are getting shot down. Like, the British are defending London with everything they have. And the German Air Force is slowly getting weaker, and the British Air Force is slowly getting stronger, and then eventually gets to a point where they realize, oh my gosh, the British aren't just going to give up. They have to call off the attack. So the Battle of Britain ends for victory for Great Britain. It's the first defeat of the Germans of the war, but they're still in a really good place. They still conquered all of Europe. Britain is not totally defeated, but they're pretty badly beaten up. Like, they're licking their wounds. They're not really a threat right now. And this is going to lead for Hitler to then shift his attention back to the east and basically make the mistake that's going to cost him the war. So we'll look at the next stage and get America involved in the ultimate demise of Hitler in our next video.